Hello, this is Willie from the Ozarks, Southwest Missouri, and it is February the 26th, and we're ready for Lesson 57 in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. And let's look at yesterday's lesson once again. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability, but above all else, I want to see. Above all else, I want to see differently. God is in everything I see. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. All right, so now let's move on to today's lesson, lesson 55. We're going to review the lessons 31 through 35. I am not the victim of the world I see. I have invented the world I see. There is another way of looking at the world. I could see peace instead of this. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. All right, so I added a couple conjunctions when I say it that makes it really ties it all together for me well. Let me do it that way. I only added the word because and the word but it just really ties it together. I am not the victim of the world I see because I have invented the world I see. But there is another way of looking at the world. I could see peace instead of this. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. See how that kind of ties it all together? All right, what a nice revelation. Okay, before we read the lesson today, back on the 18th, just about a week ago, I showed you I started some Swiss chard. Well, it's up, reaching for the light. And let me just show you. I just brought I've got about 50 of these coming up, or 50 cells. There's 2 or 3 in each one. I may separate them out if I can get them out and put them in another, because I want a lot of Swiss chard. This is that bright light Swiss chard. I saw someone online was saying that the 3 foods you really want to consider growing in your garden are Swiss chard, any kind of, kale was the one they were talking about, some kind of cruciferous. This is Swiss chard's a cruciferous. But the Swiss chard and kale, high nutrient-rich foods. Can eat some raw and some steamed. And then the third food they really recommend everybody grow is some cilantro. They all tend to hold up good against cool weather. And I will show you as I nurse these along and up to the point of eating them. But I'm going to encourage you all. Those are 3 foods that I would encourage everybody to grow. Kale, Swiss chard of any of the varieties. This happens to be bright lights. And then cilantro. All right. Anyway, I'm kind of happy with my little plants all coming up. I've got a whole bunch of little plants coming up. I'll show you as I'm going along, because that's what I like to do, just show about my plants. All right, lesson 57. I am not the victim of the world I see. How can I be the victim of a world that can be completely undone if I so choose? A world that can be completely undone if I so choose. How could I be a victim of that world? My chains are loosened. I can drop them off merely by desiring to do so. The prison door is open. I can leave it simply by walking out. Nothing holds me in this world. Only my wish to stay keeps me a prisoner. I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last. And that doesn't mean we're going to die. That means we're going to live. You know, this world, there's a way of living in this world where we look through it and we see that door open beyond it, the real world, walking into the sunlight at last. Well, you know, you may not lose your physical body when you do that, and indeed you won't. But your physical body isn't you anyway. It's your clothes you're wearing. That's the way I like to look at it. So I have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I am free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God must be forever free. I'm the Son of God, you're the Son of God. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner. So this is you. You're where God wants you to be, regardless of what you think about yourself. So obviously what we're trying to do is realign our thoughts with the way that God thinks about us, because that's our natural inheritance. Okay, the next one, lesson 33. There is another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I ascribe to it, there must be another way of looking at it. I see everything upside down, and my thoughts are the opposite of truth. I see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be then that the world is really a place where he can be set free. I would look upon the world as it is and see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom. Wow, isn't that a nice way to look at it? If we're seeing things upside down, let's use that to our advantage. And we're saying, well, if I see myself in prison, well then, since I can't really be in prison, well, that must mean that this is a place where the Son of God is set free. So that's what the world is for, a place where he finds his freedom and his happiness. And the next one, I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I will realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules which I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it, and I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me. We're going to start finding the peace that is in everyone's heart. Everyone that shares this place with me has the same peace that I have. We just got to know how to have vision to see it. And the last lesson review. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Your mind is part of God's. You are very holy. Anyway, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. As I share the peace of the world with my brothers, I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself, and not that anyone else would feel left out. The Course in Miracles uses the masculine all the way through it. But if it helps you as you're reading it, please insert other words that help you to make it true to you. For instance, I share the peace of the world with all my brothers and sisters. I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself. The world I look upon has taken all the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back to me. In this light, I begin to see what my illusions about myself had kept hidden. I begin to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself, and their oneness with me. Remember, you're not going to see the oneness until you've seen it inside. Once you see that new way of looking at everyone, when the world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back to me. So when you start seeing forgiveness in your heart, everything's going to be blessing you. In this light, I began to see what my illusions about myself had kept hidden. I began to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself, and their oneness with me. Okay, one more reading of just the titles, and I'm going to throw a couple of the conjunctions, because and but, in there. I am not the victim of the world I see, because I have invented the world. Because I have invented the world I see. But there is another way of looking at the world. I could see peace instead of this. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. I am not the victim of the world I see. See how this all leads to a new thought? All of them together. I am not the victim of the world I see because I have invented the world I see, but there is another way of looking at the world. I could see peace instead of this because my mind is part of God's. I'm very holy. Of course I can see peace instead of this because mine and your minds are very holy, and we have all the strength of God living and coursing through our being. Well, take advantage of that truth and see all the beauty around you. Hear it all, see it all. And until tomorrow, peace be with you.